Welcome to the Athena Wellness Podcast, the show that invites you to take a seat around the community fire and listen to stories that inspire. I'm your host, Kathy Robinson, author, coach, and founder of Athena Wellness, a company that's dedicated to supporting you on your journey to live more wholeheartedly. Hello, and welcome to episode 23. Thanks so much for joining me. Today is the continuation of a series of discussions on more traditional wellness topics. In episode 17, we talked about the three components of vitality, one of which was exercise. You know that word that can feel like a should and gets wrapped up in guilt when we don't do it? Well, I'm going to let you off the hook right up front. You can stop doing the exercise you dread. If you need a permission slip, this is it. If you want to stay healthy and fit as you age and get the recommended 150 to 300 minutes of movement each week, I've got great news. There's lots of ways you can do it. Today's episode is all about thinking more broadly about your fitness and, dare I say it, have fun in the process. Why not? So here's what we'll be talking about. We'll start with exercise 101, some of the basics, and then we'll get into this concept called functional training. And then lastly, we'll talk about fun ways to incorporate functional movement into your day, including a brainstorming exercise. Before we get started, let me remind everyone that while I'm a certified wellness coach, I'm not a personal trainer. What I'm sharing is what I've learned and what has worked for me over the years. Please consult your health professionals before considering a change in your health and wellness routine. So I invite you to sit back, take a nice long breath to ground yourself in presence, and let's get started. I'd like to begin with dispelling a common myth, that fitness has more to do with how you look than how you feel. So often we feel the need to get in shape. It's because we want to look better in and out of our clothes, and I have to confess, that motivates me as well. To look fit, we usually focus on getting our muscles and bodies to appear in a certain way, like toned or defined, but that doesn't automatically make us physically fit. We can have different body shapes and sizes and have the fitness level to complete physical challenges with ease. According to the CDC, physical fitness is defined as the ability to carry out daily tasks with vigor and alertness, without undue fatigue, and with ample energy to enjoy leisure time pursuits and respond to emergencies. That's a comprehensive definition. So how do we increase our fitness? How do we ensure that we can carry out our daily tasks, enjoy leisure time activities, and have enough in the reserve for emergency fight or flight situations? The answer is by living an active lifestyle. Before we get into the details, let's talk through some basic terminology. Starting with movement, which is defined as the act or process of moving. Basically, it's how we step through our days, going about our daily routines. It comprises our steps, the things we carry, and how we move our body. Exercise is defined as bodily exertion for the sake of developing and maintaining physical fitness. This is usually done by repeating a pattern of activity, and it results in things like lower stress levels, improved sleep and mental outlook, as well as increased energy levels. Exercise is also referred to as working out, like when you go to the gym or take a boot camp class or when you go running. Next is training, which is a notch above exercise in terms of intensity because it's honed on achieving a specific goal. For some, it may be lifting a particular weight or running a 10K in a particular time. Maybe it's a Spartan race or making the basketball team. Training comprises an overall plan, and the workouts are structured to effectively meet and exceed that goal by applying something that's called progressive overload. And that means the gradual increase in volume, intensity, frequency, or time. As an example, when I decided to train for the ultramarathon, I turned my exercise runs into a training plan, gradually increasing the mileage each week and including cross-country training to prevent injury. But the plan also included nutrition and rest and recovering strategies. So that's the spectrum of intensity, movement to exercise to training. And here's the pattern we can get into: getting mostly low-intensity movement or limited movement, especially if we have jobs where we sit most of the day. It's been said that sitting is the new smoking. This typically results in 3 outcomes. 1, the choice not to exercise. 2, embarking on an exercise plan that comes from a place of obligation that, over time, turns into dread at the thought of doing some tedious routine. And 3, the weekend warrior syndrome, where after a week of sitting, we go all out on Saturday and Sunday, which can lead to injury. Consider this. What if we adapted movement to include elements of exercise, meaning varied intensity, and training, meaning being mindful of what we're trying to achieve? What if you were able to find a group of activities that could benefit your physical body, mental health, and you enjoyed it? As we leave behind the goals and the shoulds, we may find that we can be more fully in the moment and enjoy the feeling of moving our bodies. What's beneficial to you? What nurtures your mind, body, and spirit? I'd like to spend some time talking about something called functional training. There are 7 functional movement patterns that comprise our daily activities, and they are push, pull, squat, lunge, hinge, rotate, and walk. Functional training simulates these common movements of everyday activities so you can do them safely and efficiently. This makes living life, picking up boxes, cleaning the house, walking on the beach, easy and enjoyable because you'll have more flexibility, core strength, balance, endurance, and agility. And as we age, those fitness elements, especially balance, agility, and muscle strength, become critically important. And by practicing functional movement patterns, the risk of everyday injury decreases. The main difference between functional training and traditional training is functional training involves the core and multiple joints and muscles, like when you do a burpee or a push-up, versus isolating a muscle, like when you do a bicep curl. Examples of functional training programs include things like boot camp, cross-training, the P90X series, F45, and CrossFit. But you don't have to do any crazy routine, and you can modify. In fact, the equipment used is really simple: dumbbells, barbells, kettlebells, bands, pull-up bars, medicine balls, sandbags, balance discs, and ropes. And you get to pick and choose to create a program that's most beneficial for you. Here are a number of components that comprise functional training, and I'll cover them in 4 groupings just to give you a better sense. The first is cardiorespiratory endurance, and that's how well your heart, lungs, and muscles work together during extended periods of exertion. The second is muscle endurance, strength, and power, and these measures indicate how many repetitions you can perform, how much weight you can lift, and how much force you can exert. The third grouping includes agility, speed, and coordination. This includes moving and changing direction, how quick you can get from one point to another, and the ability to move in a smooth, accurate, and controlled manner. The last grouping includes flexibility and balance, And this includes how far our muscles can be stretched or how far we can move our joints, as well as how long a position can be held. So here's where the fun begins, how we begin to mix and match all of this, how we include movement that incorporates these components. So here are some concepts to keep in mind. The goal is to choose a series of activities that includes these 5 elements. 1. The 7 functional movement patterns that comprise our daily activities. As a reminder, push, pull, squat, lunge, hinge, rotate, and walk. The 2nd, focus on large body movement. These are compound movements that involve more than one joint. For example, doing a pull-up, you're using your wrist, elbow, and shoulder joints along with your lats, biceps, traps, pecs, and oblique muscles. The 3rd is activating the core, being mindful of engaging the core muscles in good form for stabilization when performing activities, such as throwing a medicine ball or holding a plank. 4 is moving on several planes. That means moving in all directions, forward, back, side to side, up and down. For example, a combination of a front and a side lunge. The 5th is including dynamic movement and stretches. And this is a combination of agility, balance, and jumping with a focus on starting and stopping, such as when you do a box jump. I'll give you an example of how I work all of these elements in, and then we'll get creative and think outside the traditional exercise box. This type of movement is really fun for me. I love combining all kinds of activities, and I love the sense of body awareness and paying attention to form and the feeling of blood flow. For me, the whole reason why I make sure to move my body every day is to stay healthy, strong, and mobile to enjoy life as much as possible. I love going to the store and buying things like 50-pound bags of ice melts. You need help with that, ma'am? Nope, I'm fine, thank you. Have a good day. I really do love that. So let me give you an example. Since last September, this was my routine. Lifting twice a week with barbells and dumbbells, and doing 1 functional circuit workout, running intervals or hills twice a week with a longer run of 5 miles a week. After 6 months of that routine, I've recently made some changes to refresh my workout routine, and I haven't quite settled on a new one yet. I want to try different things. I want to have more fun and get outdoors. For the spring and the summer, I typically lift less heavy weight and work more with dumbbells and body weight. I'm thinking my weeks will look something like this: 2 to 3 functional strength routines, trail running as weather permits or other cardio mixed in, such as agility and interval and hill workouts. And since spring arrived last week, I schedule a bonus afternoon walk on as many days as I can. For the functional workouts, I either create a circuit of exercises I run through 3 times, or as last week, I dusted off my old P90X3 DVDs, and I've been having some fun with Tony Horton and moving in all different ways. Minimal equipment, maximal impact, lots of fun. So let's put it all together for you now. First, what are you aiming for? Both the Centers for Disease Control and the World Health Organization agree on activity guidelines, which are getting between 150 and 300 minutes of moderate or 75 minutes of vigorous aerobic activity and 2 muscle strengthening activities a week. And I'll put a link to a nice PDF I found on the health.gov website that explains the guidelines and also gives specifics by age groups. So if you're just getting re-engaged and haven't moved much at all, it's okay to start with small increments, say 10 to 12 minutes a day. That'll get you 75 minutes for the week, and you can build from there. The important thing for you would be to move each day. An article published by Harvard Medical School referenced a study that showed that 75 minutes a week of brisk walking can add 2 years to life. And I'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. For others who are already moderately active, what are you looking to accomplish? If it's to have more energy, stay healthy, and age well, here's the good news. Like me, you don't have to go to the gym for those minutes. Here are some common examples to help gauge between moderate and vigorous activity. First, the moderate. That's fast walking or slow jogging around 4 miles an hour, cycling at 10 miles an hour, heavy cleaning such as washing windows, vacuuming, or carrying heavy loads, gardening, and tennis doubles. Examples of vigorous activity include climbing stairs, hiking, shoveling, cycling at 12 miles an hour, or running at 6 miles an hour, playing soccer, basketball, or tennis singles. The key is to get that first 2.5 hours in each week. There are additional benefits of getting more, but those first 150 minutes are essential. Regular movement has been shown to boost mood, sharpen focus, reduce stress, increase energy levels, reduce body fat, and reduce the risk of disease, and improve sleep. But despite all those benefits, it can be difficult to stick to an exercise program. And forcing yourself to do exercise you don't enjoy will only last so long before your willpower gets depleted. Conversely, if you view your exercise as something that can release stress and be pleasurable, you'll be more likely to do it. Once that endorphin release is experienced on a regular basis, it will fuel the desire to do that activity again. Above all, find an activity or group of activities that uplift and energize you mentally, physically, and spiritually. Enjoy the feeling of moving your body and have fun. So let's talk about some fun ways to incorporate functional movement into your days. I'll start with some food for thought as you decide on what movement is right for you. First, it doesn't have to be structured activity. The more enjoyment, the more the mental boost. You can add mindfulness to the mix, like taking a mindful walk, and be on the lookout for additional benefits like reduced stress, pain relief, and better sleep. That will continue to fuel your efforts. You can turn your activities into a creative outlet. One of the best things about my afternoon walks is by letting go of the day for a short while, I get all kinds of ideas. And it also can provide a sense of fulfillment by setting a goal or intention and then meeting that. And lastly, it can become an integrated part of your day. I recently found out the importance of that last point on integrating activity into my day. Like many of you, my work involves sitting, writing, coaching, speaking, podcasting, teaching, all sitting in front of a computer screen. On Monday through Friday, I have a standing commitment with a group of virtual writers at 8 a.m. Before I sit down to write for that first hour, I make sure I've gone through my morning routine, which includes 30 to 45 minutes of exercise, making the bed, taking a shower, having some water, and some fruit before meeting my friends at 8 a.m. But here's what I was missing, especially during the cold winter months: activity throughout the day. And I've recently rectified that in a way that just delights me. You'll hear more about this in episode 24 when Dr. Robin and I give our updates on how we're doing with our gentle spring reset. That was introduced in episode 22 when I committed to putting my Fitbit back on after 6 months of not wearing it. Just the act of putting it back on my wrist sparks something because the watch vibrates at 10 to the hour if I haven't moved. In fact, funny side note, It's been doing it as I've been recording this episode, and I've been pausing the episode, recording, getting up, and moving. That little vibration reminds me to get up and take 250 steps, which is about 2 minutes of walking. And this happens between 9 and 7, 10 times throughout the day if I'm not moving. I was dismayed at how often my watch vibrated those first few days. But when it does, I get up, I take a 2-minute break, walk around the house, including a flight of stairs for good measure. I was also feeling stiff from all of the sitting, especially my hip flexors. So, simple solution, a $40 laptop stand. When I place it on my kitchen island, I adjust it so my laptop is about 4 inches off the countertop, and voila, a standing desk. I try to split my time between sitting and standing throughout the day at hourly intervals. Add in my afternoon walks that I recently restarted, and it's made a world of difference. The adjustments are small, standing and walking more, but I can feel the positive impact. So I'm ready to welcome spring. What's interesting is that integrating low-grade, consistent activity into the day isn't a new concept. In fact, the Blue Zone's research that I mentioned back in episode 19 shows that those who live longest tend to move every 20 minutes or so. These are folks who grew up fishing, farming, walking, dancing for recreation, doing Tai Chi, and physical work of some kind for 5 to 10 hours a week. They seem to consistently work their body moderately to the point of breathing hard and sweating, but not overworking. Here are some ways that we can integrate low-grade activity into our modern days. First is to walk whenever possible. Going for a walk, parking farther than you need to, taking the stairs, having walking meetings or coffee dates, moving while watching a screen or talking on the phone, walking after a meal. You can also try the standing desk approach. And when you need to sit, whether you're reading a book or playing a game, watching TV or scrolling, try sitting on the floor and engaging your core and your lower leg muscles. You can incorporate mindful movement during routine home activities, using both the right and left side of the body, reaching up and squatting down, and lifting with the legs. And you can also incorporate functional movements in the things that you do on a regular basis, such as picking up a heavy box from the floor, rearranging furniture, getting in and out of your car, carrying your kids, carrying heavy grocery bags or other items like pet food, gardening and landscaping, and walking up and down the stairs, or even leaping over a puddle of water. It is possible to include the right quantity and a variety of movement to keep you strong and agile in your days. With some reframing, you can develop fitness in your daily movement outside the gym and feel empowered to move your body in ways that feel good and challenging for you. Look for a nice combination of activities that includes things that you have to do, like housework or errands or yard work, with things that you love to do, like hiking or skiing or swimming. Remember that the goal is simply to move more and get stronger in some way. And speaking of getting stronger, here are some fun ways to brainstorm moderate to vigorous activities if you don't know where to start or you're looking for some new suggestions. The first is, what did you like to do as a kid? I grew up in a densely populated urban city with no green spaces to play in. We had an alleyway on the block, and it was fun to climb the fences that lined it and do some exploring. And we also had a game called Bottle Caps that we played on the street, making a chalk playing field and filling bottle caps with wax that we would flick with our fingers to get to the next spot on the board, kind of like marbles. And then we played something called stoop ball, which the pitcher would take a Spalding rubber ball and hit the crease of the steps to pop it up in the air so the other player could field it, kind of like baseball. I think I'm dating myself, but the point is, it's no wonder I like activities like boot camp and functional training. I was pushing, pulling, squatting, lunging, hinging, rotating, and walking, all 7 functional movement patterns. So think back on your childhood and think about how you might incorporate some of the movements you loved back then. I'm 56 years old, and I know I could still play those games and scale that fence. Next is, how about things that you've always wanted to do? When I was in my early 40s, I wanted to learn how to surf. I was spending a week out in Montauk, New York that year, right on the beach with my niece and nephew who were bringing their surfboards. That was motivation for Aunt Kathy. I was working out with a trainer in those days, and for several months, we worked on movements in the gym that would mimic getting and staying on a surfboard. I was ready when the time came, but let's just say surfing didn't come all that naturally to me. But I got a few great workouts in that week, learning to time the small waves, push down on the board, and try to stay on it for as long as I could. It's been 15 years, but I know someday I'll get back on that board and try again. Next, how about something that just makes you smile? I heard a story of a woman who used to ice skate when she was younger and hadn't been on skates for decades. Later in life, she gave it a go and found that she loved gliding on the ice. She has no desire to compete or work on form. She just wants to feel the breeze on her face as she rounds the rink. So give it some thought. Do an online search and align with your true self. Would you prefer to do an activity solo or with a group? In the privacy of your own home or in public? Do you prefer being indoors or out? Land or water? Do you like activities where you can compete with yourself or against others? Do you like the feeling of teamwork? Are you working with a physical limitation or injury that you need to take into account? And lastly, do you prefer a set schedule or flexibility? All are important as you find what best suits you. Mix and match and play with your parameters. Try things out and see how you feel before, during, and after. If it's not a great fit, move on to something else, but just keep moving. I'd like to leave you with a few quotes. The first from Blue Zone's author Dan Buettner. None of the longest living people ran marathons or pumped iron. They lived exactly as their grandparents before them, surrounded by family and friends, in environments that nudge them into more movement. They don't use power tools, they do their own yard work, they grow a garden. The second is from movement trainer and educator Carol Welch. She says, movement is medicine for creating change in a person's physical, emotional, and mental states. And finally, from writer George Bernard Shaw. We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. I hope this episode gave you helpful guidance so you can create your fitness routine based on your personal preferences, including activities that are fun and impactful for you while being workable in the structure of your life. Because what's the best exercise? The one you keep doing. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know there are many ways you can spend your time. Thank you for choosing to spend it with me. Until our paths cross again, be kind to yourself and show your warrior spirit some love. If you know anyone who could benefit from today's episode, please pass it on. And many thanks for supporting the show by subscribing and leaving a review. It means a lot, and it helps others find their way to our circle. If you'd like to access the show notes, have a question you'd like addressed on a future episode, or would like a transcript of this episode, visit www.athenawellness.com/podcast. Until next time, be well.